Good evening, everyone. This is Vera Sadler, your host with Tuesday Talk Live. We are here again to bring you another exciting guest. And I'm sorry that I was missing last week, but hey, that's what happens. Life happens. But I am so excited, as always, to bring to you exciting guests and guests that we need to promote, guests that we need to highlight, individuals that are making an impact in our community, in our society, and then also role models for our young people. This individual that we're going to introduce tonight, I believe, can be a great role model for some of our young individuals who are looking to see what they can do, what is a possibility for them. So I'm going to back off and let Dr. Tyiree, I hope I pronounced his first name correctly, Chamberlain, introduce himself, and then we're going to get into a conversation. This is an amazing young man doing great things, so I wanted to bring him on the show tonight. Again, welcome to Tuesday Talk Live. Dr. Tyiree, will you just introduce yourself to people, tell them where you hail from, and let's get started with this conversation.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Tyiree Chamberlain. I actually prefer Ty, but I've been working on my formal introduction, so I know I worked hard for the title, so I will honor that. But in most places, I still prefer Mr. Chamberlain or Ty, just for a little fun fact. So I'm born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. Well, technically born in Fort Worth, raised in Arlington, Texas. So I got to claim Arlington a little bit. I always say social work found me. I didn't really know what I wanted to do until my senior year in high school. I knew I wanted to help people. I met with one of my counselors and I was like, well, what do you do? And she was like, I'm a social worker and I work with students for various different, presenting problems. And ever since then, I was super interested in social work, went right into school at UTA and didn't look back. I knew that social work could be the ladder to get into mental health and do therapy. And here I am over 10 years later, still loving the field and loving what I do with clients and students. But that's the mental health side, but I also enjoy thrifting. I love shopping, finding good deals. Fashion is definitely one of my hobbies. I love trying new styles, whether it's shoes, sweaters, shirts, turtlenecks. There's really nothing I'm not too bashful to try. I'm all about new things in general. I love going.
I have a granddaughter, Ty, that's going to be like that.
Oh, great. Join the club. But yeah, it's just, life's too short to just not experiment, have fun, and try new things, even if you don't know if it's, for you or not, why not go for it as long as it's not hurting you or anybody else, just go for it. All you can really do is just, go for it and see what can come out of the life experience. Let's see, outside of thrifting, I'm working on writing more. So I don't know if that'll be a book, a screenplay, a film, but I'm really into my creative realm of things right now. I told myself it's time to start having fun in life again. So I think I've worked hard in school and my career, and I really want to do things that are feeding my passion and my fulfillment. And so that's just a little bit about me and kind of where I'm at in this chapter. I'm 29 years old. I'll be 30 in December. So I'm really looking forward to what that chapter entails. And I'm a Sagittarius. I enjoy pizza, Mexican food. I love quesadillas.
Me too.
And I enjoy a good milkshake on a Sunday. That's kind of my self-care.
Is that your Sunday afternoon treat?
Yes. Well, usually in the evenings, like after a long day at work, I just enjoy ice cream, milkshake. It's kind of my self-care for a long, hard week. And
so you said a lot in your introduction, and I want to back up to a couple of things you said.
Okay.
So you said, you had someone that gave you some ideas what you want to be. So, and the reason why I want to back up is because you may have some young people watching this, which I'm praying that some young people will watch this and see you say, man, he's 29 years old and he's already Dr. Ty. He's 29 years old and he's already made it there. I think when I was introduced to who you were through a mutual person, your mom, I was introduced, I could just put out there. I was introduced she was talking about you and I was like, wow, he's already doing all that. I would love to have him come on the show because other young people need to hear and need to see that at his age, you've already got your doctorate. I haven't made it to my doctorate. I got 2 masters, but I haven't done a doctorate yet. I don't know if I want to go back to school for all that.
Waiting for you.
Considering it. But when you said, hey, you didn't have it all figured out till your senior year. Some people may have pressure thinking they don't have it figured out. They don't know. But I love the way you said that you had a conversation, and you had a conversation with someone that probably you looked up to, someone you admired, and they gave you some kind of help steer you. And it was something you were interested into, and you saw that as a route to get to where you wanted to go, and you didn't stop. Let me ask you a question, because you had, you went and you got this degree, the next degree, the next. Were there times that you thought and said, I can or cannot do this, that you wanted to give up in your journey to getting this doctorate?
Funny story is I felt that I wanted to give up before I even got started. And what I mean by that is when I was applying, I remember senior year applying to UTA, and I was saying, I probably won't get in, I think it's PSAT. It's all kind of different tests you got to take. I remember thinking my scores probably won't be high enough. I probably won't get in, and then what I'm going to do. And then I get accepted to UTA, and then I'm like, I'm probably not going to pass my first semester because, I would really math was really what was keeping me in a chokehold. I was never a proficient math student since elementary school. And so I felt like that was going to be my enemy throughout college, but then I surprised myself again. I passed that class, and then saw at some point in my journey, I was like, I wonder what would happen if I actually had confidence in what I'm pursuing.
Wow, that's so good.
Because I've had doubt this whole time, and yet I'm still going forward, still going for after what I was pursuing and passionate about. And so I just started to really just, if I got this far, let's see what it looks like to be confident and really believe in what you're, working hard for. So slowly but surely, those seeds of doubt started to kind of become more and more decreased. And I found myself I always say I go for space. I don't go for the sky. The sky's not high enough for me. So I always say I go for space and see what's out there. And so I just kept. Now there were some ups and downs, but it was a learning experience. I don't ever take things as a loss. I take it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And so through those experiences, they shaped me and helped me to get where I am. So that was really most of undergrad. Once I got to grad school, I was feeling a little bit more like, okay, I got this. I got through undergrad. I can get through grad school because I went straight into it. I didn't take a break. So, and then I took a little break before, I got into my doctoral program because at that time I wanted to figure out life. What did I want to do? Where did I want to work? Who did I want to work with? And then in the meantime, I got my clinical license, which in social work, that enables you to do more mental health and clinical type of things. So that didn't involve more school. That just involved getting your clinical hours and making sure you pass the test. You have to take an exam, and then you're licensed to do therapy. So at first I was not sure. Now, it looked good on paper, but I wasn't sure as far as, do I really want to commit to this factor of doing clinical social work, more, intense, more hands-on. Because for a while I was, able to kind of, what I loved about social work was that it didn't confine me to one lane. I could work in a hospital, a school, in the criminal justice system. I wasn't, tied to just one lane. But I knew with the clinical part of social work, that's a commitment. You're putting hours into this practice. And so I knew that even if I didn't want to do it right away, I wanted to do it eventually. And so I did that. As soon as I finished, then it was doctoral, my doctoral programs. And so it kind of happened that way, where it was just back to back. When I look back, I'm like, I really did a lot in a short time span.
You've done a lot more than a lot of other people have. And I commend you, young man, for pushing forward, not giving up, and, and doing what you need to do. Because some people figure they take that break, and that break becomes so extensive and so long, they never return, they never get into it, or they never find their groove. Like you said, you found something and then you looked at, I hear from you that you looked at the possibilities. You didn't just limit yourself. I love the way you say, I'm not just saying the sky is the limit. I'm looking at space. Like what, I'm not limiting myself. And so it sounds like even when you were mapping out what you could possibly do with the education, what you learn, because you know how sometimes we get an educational degree in one area and we're just like, oh, I can't find a job here. I can't do this. But it sounds like you said, okay, this is where I am. I'm going to start working here. But in the meantime, I'm also going to expand my capabilities and just expand my territory, for lack of better terms, expand your territory. So that is awesome. As I was reading your profile, I saw this. So first I want you to tell me two things. It says That's So Therapy. Tell me a little bit, and you got the Go Therapy on your shirt. Is That So Therapy? Is that an organization you created, or is that an organization from that you work with?
So That's So Therapeutic is my practice. That's, it's still a baby right now. It's still getting, the nutrients it needs. It's not full-fledged. I'm not seeing clients privately quite yet, but I knew that, like I said earlier, I knew that that's something I eventually do want to tackle. It's just, I want it to be everything it needs to be when I am ready to pursue that full time. The name is inspired by a show, That's So Raven, that I grew up with in my childhood, and I was trying to think of something that could be kind of catchy, but be kind of nostalgic and meaningful to me. And so I don't know if you've seen the show. It came out a while ago, but it is about the main character being psychic and seeing to the future. And so I kind of like the symbolism of therapy being this tool to kind of create your future and see what you want to see out of it. I think what you put into therapy is what you can get out of it. So if you're giving yourself and you're vulnerable and you're open to being challenged, you're open to getting clarity, finding answers, then I think your reward will be that much greater. It's not always, I tell clients, it's not always comfortable. So let me rewind real quick, although it's not fully my private practice, I am partnered with the district that I work for right now, and I'm seeing clients through them. And so that's kind of been my segue into, okay, can I really do this, with my practice? So it's giving me that experience without it fully being like me being responsible for like the paperwork, the marketing, all the things that come with running a practice. So it's allowed me that space to kind of just see clients and see what is my DNA as a therapist, as a
Oh, that's such a good term.
Yes.
Yeah. And being a solopreneur, we don't just call them entrepreneurs, we call them solopreneur when it's just us, right? It takes a lot out of us. And so learning the trade and learning and honing your skills is very good while you have that cushion. And as the Lord allows you to build upon that and launch out. So I told you before we started, I was going to ask you this because there are terms that we hear about, our community, for one, and I've said this on the show many times, our community, our African-American community struggles with that therapeutic process that you talked about, going in, doing the work. We see it as something that is sometimes taboo, but you had some terms on your site that says psychotherapy and psychoeducation. And I'm not totally familiar with those, but I wanted you to kind of touch on those a little bit if you can. And you're working with young people, so I would assume that some of that psychoeducation is attuned to that. Can you describe that a little bit more for us?
Of course. So the simple definition, so psychoeducation, I'm really good at examples more than actual definitions. So hopefully that'll be okay. So psychoeducation, so let's say I'm working with a client that's experiencing anxiety. We might go over, psychoeducation is more understanding what is it? What is the thing that, we're working through, and understanding that as a entity in itself. So that would be maybe the definition of anxiety, understanding the complexities of it. What does that mean? What does that look like in a general, more broad sense? So we know exactly what it is and being clear on that understanding. So psychoeducation is more kind of how it sounds like, you're just being educated on the topic, on the components of it. Whereas psychotherapy is more of a talk therapy, and we are getting to the root of the cause. Why are you experiencing anxiety in particular? What does it look like for you specifically? How is it showing up in your areas of life? Is it informing you to make good decisions? Is it, what purpose is it serving? Is it keeping you from exploring different options, career-wise, romance-wise? So it's more, psychotherapy allows you to get more as to why is this happening in my chapter? And then psychoeducation is just, like I said, it's more understanding the topic itself. And psychotherapy allows to kind of dive a little bit deeper. It's more intimate, it's more vulnerable, and it can be challenging as well. So I would say it's just more of a deep dive into what does it look like for you specifically.
That's good. When you were saying that about the psychoeducation versus the psychotherapy, what came to my mind was, and I would assume for me, understanding what it is, so then I can understand why it is. So if I can just say, okay, this is what's happening to me. And again, pardon me, I'm having this pinched nerve in my back or shoulder, so I'm twitching a little bit. I apologize. It looked like I'm moving all over the place. But for me, it sounds like if I understand that I have this weird sense of fear all the time, and to understand, well, not even fear or just whatever it is, a phobia, whatever it is, to understand what it is, naming it, because I think sometimes when we don't understand or name it and have the, like you said, the education around it, we tend to think something's wrong with us, that we can't be helped, but once you teach someone, this is what that is, that psychoeducation part, they can then maybe accept the psychotherapy, the treatment, the understanding, getting to the root of it, because now they've learned it. And I think for a long time, because we don't understand something, we don't deal with it. We don't know what it is. We don't deal with it. Brush it. Oh, no, it's nothing. Well, you're waking up in a panic all night long. You're having panic attacks. You're doing this and you don't understand what it is so that you can get the help you need. And so I love that. And I thank you for explaining it to our guests, because there are people who probably need to know, well, hey, I need to know what this is going on in my life. And when they get to the answer of what that is, that education piece is so important. I'm huge on education. I'm huge on terminology. I'm huge on people getting to know. And the way it sounds like you treat your individuals is first coming into a place of understanding. Has that helped more in the therapeutic setting than it has been, I would say, some typical therapy sessions you would think? And I know we can't rate everybody's therapy session. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But for me, I've been counseling. I go to counseling. I go to therapy. But I would say, do you think that helps more than someone just coming in? They want to be vulnerable, but they can't because they don't understand.
I would say yes. I think taking the time to kind of dissect this thing that can be overwhelming, or like you said, misunderstood. I think it's important to dedicate the time to understand that you have to see it for what it is from an objective lens. And then, like I said, the psychotherapy allows for us to look at it from your perspective. How does it feel? What does it do in your life for you? And I think you have to be in a place to want to understand the why, because I think a lot of people are afraid of if they find out what it is, they may, what does that mean about me? What does that mean about my life? If I'm dealing with this thing and I don't really know what to do. I think as a clinician, it's part of my obligation and my duty to make that bridge a little bit less intimidating to walk on. And that, I can guide you and walk with you part of the way, but this is the bridge that we're collaborating on, but it's ultimately your journey, and you'll continue to go through other bridges. Not to say you'll go through it alone. I think it's just a sense of you will have support, but we cannot be the bridge, if that makes sense. I think I always tell people I want you to be your own superhero. I don't want to be responsible for the work.
That's good.
For the work that you're putting in, and the time, the effort. I don't ever want credit for that. So I will always say, you use the tools, your powers that you learn how to do, and you take off with that. That's ultimately, you want to be worked out of a job. That's kind of my mentality.
Oh, that's really good. So I'm got to show this because that really stuck out. We need to be our own superhero by using the therapeutic tools that are given. Tell me, Ty, what do you think are some of, as people finally do come in, so an individual like me that's been putting it off for months, years, and I have all these things. When people come in and finally say, talk to you, what has been some of our biggest how do I say, reasons why we didn't go? What are some of the biggest things that hold people back from getting the therapy? I see a shirt that you have on that says "Go to therapy," right? Go to therapy. I tell people, go to therapy, get the help, let someone walk alongside you. But what do you think is some of the biggest or major reasons, better way to say, major reasons why we don't?
That's a great question. And I think there's always going to be a lot of answers to that question. But before
Okay.
I did design this, and it's doing its job because it does. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, it's exactly what the sweater says. It's just a message to people that, like you said, maybe have been hesitating, maybe are kind of procrastinating about it, like, oh, I need to go, but I haven't. And I think some of the reasons, I think number one, there's still a big stigma, especially in our community, as far as what does it mean to get help and support. It can be scary if you haven't had that experience before. Being someone who's done therapy recently myself as a therapist, which I feel that is important because you don't have to be at rock bottom to go to therapy.
That's so good.
It can be like a maintenance thing. If you're, like you mentioned, your arm, your shoulder hurting, you would go to your doctor and follow up like, hey, I'm having this pain. What are some ways I can kind of cope and deal with this? It's the same thing with our mental health. It's just making sure everything upstairs and right here is feeling okay. And it's okay to pursue that if you are in a place where you need that support. So I think stigma, a misunderstanding of, I do understand if people have a complicated relationship with trusting people, I could see how that's an obstacle. I always say finding a therapist is like trying on the right pair of shoes. You want to keep trying until you find that right pair of shoes. Like that's it. That's the right fit, the right colors, the right style. I always tell people you don't let a negative experience of therapy or just lack of what it can be a reason why you don't pursue it. It's worth. I always say you have to feel like you're worth it. Your mental health is worth it. Your life is worth it. You have to feel that you deserve a fulfilling and good life. And so when I put it that way, it's like it is kind of up to me. I do deserve that. And if you don't feel that way, how can we get to a place where we do feel that way? Because I do want to honor people's feelings and thoughts at that time. If you're not feeling worthy, you don't feel that you can do it. Why are we at that place? And how can we get to a place where we do feel like we can get there? I think cost is another obstacle, and maybe that's why I really want to have this non-traditional approach when I do like fully launch my practice. I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know if that's a free workshop, or I know for sure it'll be a free like an intake appointment, like as far as the conversation of if we're a good fit. I think that's important to not assume that a person wants to go through with you. You may not be the best fit for the person, or maybe whatever they're going through, maybe I'm not the best fit to address those concerns, or that I'm just gonna make something up. Let's say you've been trafficked and you've been coping with that, and you don't really you don't feel comfortable with a male therapist for whatever reason. So I would direct that client to someone who is a better fit and more knowledgeable about trafficking and be able to help them through that. So I think even if I'm in this, for the betterment of people, even if I'm not that person or that vessel to help at that capacity, I'm going to, do my best to figure out who could be that person. So it's really bigger than just me seeing clients.
One answer.
Help someone get connected to someone who can support them. That's a win in itself as well for me. I could go on and on about, what reasons are, but the top ones, I think stigma, I think cost. And I think if you have, like I said, complicated relationship with trusting people.
Yeah, that's really good. And I appreciate how you really said that about differences in a fit, and not like every therapist is not for every individual. You have to keep till you get to the one that fits your therapeutic needs. It's just like me being a coach. I don't coach everybody. I have a friend who coaches single mother or divorced women. Now I can coach a divorced woman, but that's her specific lane. She coaches single mothers that are trying to raise their kids after divorce. That's her specific lane. I have friends that are coaches from coaching people after they survive domestic violence. And there's enough work for all of us, right? There's enough work, enough hurting. There's enough people that need healing, enough people that need help, that we can't try to grab people to our breasts and then we're doing more damage than good by not getting to be able to meet the needs of individuals. And like you say, I am too. I'm in this to make sure people get what they need. They don't always need me. They may need somebody else. And I have no problem. I've had multiple coaches, life coaches, and people will say to me, you put another life coach in their business and their stuff, you airing them on here, and that doesn't take any business from me. It's me being honest with myself, who's the best, and sharing the right people with the world, because we all can't do it all. And knowing that is so important. And then knowing when we need to take a step back because something may be too much for us. And like I said, sometimes we can do it, but should we? Because we shouldn't always do it. I think that's in life in general is one of the reasons why we get caught up and then need to come see you. Then we need to come see Dr. Ty, because we don't know when to take a step back. We don't know when to say enough's enough. I know as a Black woman in society, raising my children, helping with grandchildren, all that stuff, Ty, I haven't always been, you were talking about our mindset to I'm worth this, right? I'm worth this mental and emotional self-care. It took me years just to talk about my own physical self-care, how important that is. So shifting that and getting us to realize that even the mental and emotional is crucial as well. That's part of our self-care. It wasn't always at the forefront of my mind. I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't always that I needed this for me. I needed this to be healthy. I thought I was okay functioning the way I was. And then, you start blowing up, you start being angry at folks, or your body tells you when you're not well. So I think there's a lot of great reasons why we need individuals like you. You had something on your page, also on your, I'll be snooping on your graduation. Yeah, I do my research. But I like this statement. One of the reasons, and I don't know if this is part of the reasons why you went into mental health. You did say earlier that you started on this trajectory of social work, and it's leading you down but you had something here, and I want our young people to hear this, but I want them to get your perspective of this point. You said, I wanted to join 2% of who have doctorates, 2% basically in the world who have doctorates. And then you said, and I wanted to be one of the 1% of Black male clinicians. How did that really motivate and push you beyond? Because we have people that think they can't. They were in that same space you were when you said you first started out with the self-doubt. I can't do it. It's not going to matter what I do. It's not going to make a difference. How did you shift to that? I want to join the 2% who have doctorates, and I want to be one of the 1%. I want to be part of the 1% Black male clinicians. Speak to that statement that you made.
I kind of forgot I posted that, so thank you for bringing that up, because at the time, and those numbers could be different now, but back then I was like, wow, this is a really narrow, small percentage, and to be a part of that it's a blessing, and I feel privileged to be able to have made it to this point, and I want to see that percentage increase, especially with Black male and females alike in this helping profession. I say helping profession because that could be in the form of a coach, therapist, counselor, mentor. I feel that we are important, and who better to lead us than people that look like us, who've been through
Yes.
experiences that we have been through. I don't have the mentality that you have to look like me to serve me or support me. But I do think representation is absolutely important. And I've seen how it can inspire, motivate others to pursue things that they didn't think they could. So looking at those numbers and seeing, wow, if I can get here, that's great. But if I could help others get here, that's even a better fulfillment piece for me, is to inspire others and have them. I'm not, what's the word, threatened or intimidated by people going above and beyond what I was able to achieve. That's kind of that's the legacy I want to create. I want to see, our people surpass and do great things and just change the world for the better. It starts with just an idea. I want to do this.
Yes.
You make an action plan and you pursue it. When I tell you I called Capella about 20 times before I even applied to the school, I did, because I wanted reassurance. I wanted to make sure I was making a decision that would benefit me long term, and not make sure I wasn't impulsive and just excited about an idea, but doing your research and really knowing what you're getting into. I always tell people, the time is going to pass anyway, whether you're in your 60s, your 20s, that time's going to pass. So you might as well just go after what you want to do regardless.
Yeah. I'm in my 60s and talking about getting my doctorate. So I know some people listening may be like, girl, stop it. No, I never stopped learning. I love education. I love going after it. I haven't made that decision yet, but
it's coming,
because I'm in the middle of writing just like you are. Published my first book in 2022, and I'm looking to publish a second. I've worked on some pamphlets, because I am too, as we see, we don't want to just leave the people behind that have helped us, or that we want to see others, understand the freedom that we have. I don't even know what other term. I feel like at this point in my life, I'm living in a space of emotional and mental freedom. I have my days. Like everybody else, but it takes the work that you do to help individuals like me walk in that space of freedom. Working with the young people, do you have a lot of young people that say, Dr. Ty, wow, how did you get there? What are you doing? And I know, or did you just automatically, gravitate to the youth, or is it just a job came open after school, that's what you did, and then now you love it and you stay?
I kind of knew throughout my college experience that I wanted to work with adolescents. I think it's such a pivotal time in someone's life, trying to figure out your identity and what you're about and who you want to be and become. And I think it's that opportunity where you make it or break it, and I wanted to be a pivotal figure in young people's lives to help them make something of themselves. So I knew before I graduated that was my population I really want to work with. I do enjoy working with adults and the younger children as well, but I think my gifts really showcase themselves the most with adolescents. So I do work at an alternative school, and so we see students from 7th grade to 12th grade, so they're all secondary. And it was the funny story is, when I applied, I just applied for the district. They don't let you pick a school. It just went in the portal. And I always say, like I said earlier, social work chose me, and I feel like this school, well, the principal chose me, and I've been there ever since. And I've really have been fulfilled in my experience working with, that population. And they really teach me more than I feel like I teach them. I feel that this generation is super resilient and fearless and so intelligent. And I always take opportunities to learn. And there's really power in listening. I don't go into sessions unless I'm really on my, pedestal. I don't like to speak a lot. I like to listen more and let the client do the talking. I think I read this somewhere, and I can't remember who said it, but it resonated with me, because I was like, oh, I hope I don't become this. And it said, if you are a therapist or a clinician, coach, whoever, and you're doing more talking than the client, then it's really your session, and you may need a therapy session yourself. And I said, oh,
Oh, that makes sense.
Yes, so I've been more mindful of that. I don't think I was doing that, but even there was, those thoughts coming like maybe I did do a little bit too much in that last interaction, and I need to
Mhm.
just listen a little bit more. So I always say I'm knowledgeable in what I do, but I will never say like I have all the answers. I'm the expert
Mhm.
because, like you said, I'm a continuous learner. I love to learn as well and grow. And like I said, I like to take opportunities to learn from the person I'm speaking to or working with. I think that type of relationship allows for collaboration, and it's more wholesome and more meaningful when you are more humble and willing to get answers as you are working with someone rather than feel like you have to always have the answers, because I don't always have the answers, and there's times where I'm like, you know what, I really don't have the words, but I am with you in this moment, so to figure out what the next steps are. I think that's more comforting to hear than to hear something that's generic and not authentic
Mhm.
or helpful. So I've learned to kind of go to the human part of me that's just I really don't know, but I do want to be here and figure out. And I hope I answered the question. So yes,
Yes, yes, yes, you did.
I knew I wanted to work with that group, but I think each population teaches me something. From the young kids, the adolescents to adults, it's all meaningful to me, and I'm honored to be able to work with so many diverse sets of people. And like I said, it's never, even the ones that get mad at me or don't, want to hear what I have to say. That's still a great learning opportunity for me, and I'm glad to be able to touch lives in the way that I do.
Mhm. And even sometimes when they're mad, it's not that they don't want to listen; they just don't want to listen at that moment because it may be true and it's hitting that spot. And
Mm.
I know that as a parent, um, that sometimes, and you probably did your mom that way too. She'd say something, you
Sure.
didn't want to hear it. You like get upset, but what she was saying was true. But I like the way you said that you're learning too as you go along and as we listen, because I do believe, like you said, that that age group is very resilient. And most of the times they want to know somebody before we giving them that clinical response or any of this other stuff. They want to know that you do care. I heard you. They want to be heard.
Hmm.
Most of them, can you just hear what I'm saying? And too many times we talk or we automatically stereotype the behavior.
Hmm.
So I've worked with the formerly incarcerated population for a lot of years. And when I was in New York, I have a program that works with formerly incarcerated. When I was in New York, I used to work with parole officers. And I remember, Ty, they would say, well, he's just this or she's just that. And people probably would laugh now if they saw me. But there was this probably 6'5", 250, 300-pound parole officer in my face saying, he's just this and he's just that. And I mean, I went toe to toe and they're like, yes, I'm going toe to toe, because my thing was you had a young boy that went into the system as a young boy
Hmm.
before he was tried as an adult. So he went from juvie to the adult facility. And you don't know what has traumatized his mind for you just to label him. So I went toe to toe with him and said, have you even talked to him? Have you even got to know him as an individual? Have you tried to figure out, you're supposed to be helping him reintegrate, but have you even talked to him? And he
Hmm.
just looked at me. I was like, so then I don't want to hear anything you have to say about who he is and his character, because you have to stop. And sometimes we haven't listened to even understand the backstory.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying every backstory is valid, but I'm saying there are times when we just have to stop and listen. And so the work you're doing, again, I commend you for the work you're doing, because, there are things that are happening in our school grounds. There are things that are happening in stores when people go shopping, and we're complaining about our young people. We're complaining about their behavior and different things, but who's taking the time to listen? Who's taking the time to say, hey, young man, what's up? Or even if they're sent to some of these alternative schools or alternative programs, they're not throwaways, right? They're not throwaways. These are still bright, intelligent people that just need someone to get to the root of what's going on. So I commend what you're doing and how you're doing it and the patience for it, because a lot of us don't have patience anymore, right? We just
Hmm.
send them over there, let them figure out what's going on. So the program that you work with, I'm so glad that they chose you, because I can hear from you have a heart to do it. It's not just to go get $1. It's not, I'm going to do in this field, because it's not just that. and you've been doing this quite a while now. So I love that. Tell me some of the greatest challenges you've had and some of your highest. So I like to contrast greatest challenge and then highest moments you felt like through this past couple of years of doing what you do.
What a loaded question. So, but
I
I love
always load them up.
it. I can speak on a personal challenge.
You can speak on whatever you feel you're led to speak on. This is an open forum.
Personal challenge or greatest challenge is I call it superhero syndrome, where I want to be everywhere for everyone, doing everything, all the things, and just not having enough to show up for myself. And where I had to take some days off and just get myself back in a place of who are you when you're not trying to save the world, and figure out who is just Ty, period, without all the roles that I take on, and really do some soul searching. I think that was a real challenge, and that's kind of what led me to seek my therapist at the time, just figuring out what is going on, with my need. Or it's good to have that passion, but it definitely was overload. And so that was a big challenge, because you're not, there's some people who aren't ready or interested in bettering themselves. And I didn't take it personal, but I have this tendency to not easily give up. But you have to be careful not to project your hopes and desires and wants for people onto them if they're not invested in it. And it does sound, very simple, but when you are really in the field and you're really just, I really want so-and-so to really make this turnaround, and there's so much potential there, and you have to really see things for what they really are, and honor that and be okay with it. Because even though it's a no right now, doesn't mean it's a no forever, but just know that you have to be cognizant of just what you are putting your energy into. And so taking a step back and just reflecting on who you are without, like I said, all the roles and titles you have, I think that's important self-work to do, because a lot of people tie their identity to what they do. And it's not necessarily a bad thing.
That's so good, Ty. That is so good. You don't realize how important that is for all ages of what you just said.
Well, thank you. It's just straight off the dome, and sometimes I don't know what comes out until I say it. So I'm glad that it's coming out pretty smoothly. But yeah, that's been a big challenge. But I would say, and I don't know if I'm wording it right, when you said biggest reward or biggest win.
Or opportunity, when you've had that greatest wow moment when. But before you go there, I do want to say that I understand what you're talking about, because it took me a long time to understand. And that's why I teach huge on boundaries. I teach all the time on boundaries. I even have a workbook and a journal that I created for people for boundaries, because I had to learn that my passion for someone can't supersede theirs, and that I couldn't have a greater burden for them than they have for themselves. Because I would carry that stuff and it wasn't mine to carry. And you can't do more work for somebody than they're willing to do for themselves. So that's what I'm saying. I know there's so many people I know that they're praying hard. They're doing this, and people will call you, say, pray for me. And I'm thinking, did you pray for yourself? We carry all this for other people, but and you're right. We can't want for somebody more, or we can't even our own desires for them. We can't. So we have to learn that boundary. So I appreciate that. But what has been two of your greatest, like, wow, that was just so amazing. That was great moments.
The one that just automatically popped in my brain is one student that was really struggling with their mood, their emotions, aggression. And I remember just talking to one of the stakeholders at the school, and I said, this is not working. Like, this person is just sabotaging their life, is going downward. It's like a downward spiral. And we brought in the parent, we brought in the police officers, and then the behavioral health unit came in, and we all collaborated, and that person had to end up doing inpatient for a little bit and get stable, and they did end up prescribing them some medication and they gave them some services, and that student has left the school since then, and when I say they're thriving, they figured out a career they want to do. They're going to classes. They've just turned around, and it's really the small things that lead to like the biggest wins in life. And like if we had not come together and collaborated, that student's quality of life could be completely different. Not to say they wouldn't have gotten there eventually, but I really do think they were in danger at that time. They were, I think self-destructive behavior like that is a reflection of how do you, because I remember asking the student, do you love yourself? And they would say no. And I would say the way you go about your life and your decisions, it reflects that. And me and the student, we have that type of relationship. I'm gonna give you the real, like, you're not showing up for yourself. They hated the term of getting help. So I said, well, how can we support you? If you don't like the word help, how can you let us support you through what you're going through? And eventually, I have this way of, I hear you right now, you say no right now, but I'm gonna give you a couple of days and you're gonna say yes eventually. So, and then they would just kind of laugh at me. But you have to get creative with, your approach. And because it's never gonna be a one size fits all. Like what worked with little Susie may not work with little Johnny. You have to, that's kind of what I really enjoy about this field. It challenges me. It makes me think outside the box, which I think I do that naturally anyway, but I'm a very, what I call a solution focused person. And so for me, no means next opportunity. It doesn't, and even with that, it has to be like a big fat screaming no that like, there's no way this can happen. And then I'm always naturally just always thinking of ways to make something work, even when it's almost impossible. And I think that's a big testament of where I'm at in life, just not taking no for an answer or not allowing no to be the end of the chapter. It's always a next opportunity.
That's good.
Because sometimes,
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying sometimes a no can mean just not this opportunity, but maybe a different one, because I don't want people to misunderstand me saying like, well, this job rejected me 5 times, maybe I'll try 6 times. Like sometimes it's just like next opportunity. So that's what I mean by that. Just
yes.
It doesn't have to mean like you're just stuck or it's just never, it just means maybe just pivot to something that is meant, it has space for you. But I would love to hear what you have to say.
No, what I was when you're saying that it doesn't mean no, doesn't mean it can mean the next opportunity. And it goes back, what you just described with this individual goes back to what you said earlier about knowing where you end in your limits and when you need to refer to someone else. And if you had not known, okay, this is where Ty has to stop. Ty can't be in the midst of this. Ty can't keep trying to grab hold and get everything and squeeze everything, because if not, sooner or later, like you said, who knows where that child's trajectory might have ended up or how long it would have took. But because you knew and you were cognizant of this behavior means try something new, take the next route. And what an amazing story to be able to say. And I like the way you said it was collaboration. It didn't have to be Dr. Ty's names in big lights. It was a team effort, because so many times we want all the glory, we want the highlights and we want all that. So we don't know how to come together with a collaborative effect to get things done. But it takes teamwork. Sometimes it takes getting to the root. And I love that story. I love that fact that the individual found themselves and got the help they need and get the support, like you said, the support that they need to be a successful individual. One less person we have to worry about in society doing things that, hurting themselves or hurting someone else because they didn't love themselves, learning how to love themselves and learning how to love others. As we start to wrap this program up, and I love talking to you. I think you're just an amazing young man. I appreciate your drive, your heart, your passion for people.
Thank you.
Your passion to help people. And I love, Ty, that you say, don't stop. Just look at the next chapter. That is so great. If you had to leave a young person, for young persons listening to this broadcast, and they said, well, what about me? What is some advice? I'm stuck in this place. I don't know how to change my life. What is something you would share with them?
Something I would share with that person is to not suffer in silence. Use the support that's out there, whether that's a loved one, whether it's that teacher, that person that you befriended, at a community event, someone who could help you get to the answer. Because I think a lot of times we isolate ourselves and feel like we have to figure out the answers because it's our life and everyone else is busy, or you don't want people to worry and stress behind your trajectory of life. But there's people that want to be there and support. It just allows space. It's not it's not embarrassing. It's not a thing to be ashamed of. I wish it would have not taken me to reach out to others when I needed support and to help figure out some of the answers. I'm glad to have gotten there. It's better late than never. I always say that's one, you get outside yourself sometimes and seek guidance or others. I'm big on not internalizing, so it's easy to keep all of that jammed up in here. So sometimes I'm a big fan of using my notes and my phone and finding out what is keeping me stuck, obstacles. Is it a me thing? Is it something externally, like financially? And you have to give it kind of life, whatever the thing is that is stopping you from. What I mean by that is putting it somewhere to where, okay, I can look at it and then I can figure out a plan. A lot of times I feel when my thoughts get trapped, it's hard to really look at it objectively. But when I put it on a screen, on a paper, or even if you're verbalizing it, talking through it with somebody, that way, I don't know. To me, it feels like a release in some way. And when you can look at it from a different point of view, and you can attack with a new sense of tangible. I can touch it. I can feel it. I can look at it, and you can maneuver it differently. So I'd say the biggest thing is support whoever that is, or maybe that's not in the traditional form. Maybe that's an online group that you've been a part of. And you introduce them. I know it's kind of controversial, but I know some people playing around with AI stuff. I haven't experienced it myself, but I've seen people kind of learn through AI and kind of find answers that way. I feel like you have to find the formula that works for you. What do you think would benefit, and what's worth trying for that can work for you? So support, and then I would say, like I said, getting it out of not internalizing it, not having it stuck in your head, and then putting it somewhere where you can look at it and attack it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Hey guys, we've been here tonight with Dr. Ty Chamberlain. He is a therapist. He is a licensed clinical social worker, right?
Yes.
If I had that correctly. He is a young man that is on the move doing great things in our community. He's helping our kids. He's helping our young people. He's helping adults. He's helping them get to where they need to be. If you need help and you would like to speak to Dr. Ty, inbox me and I will make sure I connect you with him. If you're looking for a therapist with this fresh ideas of not trying to box you into the same category, here's a woman in her 50s and she's going through this. But you want to get to a therapist who cares about you, who wants to talk to you, who wants to help your children. Some of us have children, have youth that are really struggling. They're struggling in school. They're struggling because of what our family dynamics have put them through. They're struggling because of they're struggling because of bullying and all kinds of things. And if you would like Dr. Ty's assistance, I'm sure he'd be willing to work with you, work with your children, and just get to the root cause and help them progress down the road. This has been such an amazing conversation, Ty. I so appreciate you taking your time out to talk with us tonight. I hear the passion. I hear the love for what you do and the work. And so if anyone reaches out to me, I will definitely connect them to you. I'm not going to put your numbers or any emails up there. I'd rather they can inbox me. Okay. They can reach me. through Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, however, or even on my Instagram page, which is Vera Sadler 23. You can reach me on either one of those social media platforms, and I will make sure I connect you to Dr. Ty, because we're living in a day and age where it's not time to play around. It's not time to wait, but it's time to take care of our whole being, physical, mental, spiritual, our whole being that we need to take care of so we can be healthy individuals. I mean, health is just not about I go to the doctor and find out why I got a cut and why this bruise or this shoulder is hurting, but my mind has to be healthy. So I know I need to go to the doctor. So again, I appreciate you being here with us tonight. Thank you for taking out of your time. I know you're busy, just like most of us, but I know you're a very busy young man, and I appreciate you. And anytime you want to come on and share about what's going on in the therapeutic world that needs to be highlighted, please reach out to me, because I would love to highlight you again. Have a great, blessed night, everybody. Until next week on Tuesday Talk Live.